Let's just talk about tenant routed multicast, the why part. Why we needed tenant routed multicast. First of all, this we are talking in the context of EVPN. Okay. And why we need tenant routed multicast. Let's say I have these three switches and I have, let's say, this spine. So let's just come to this very famous DC architecture leaf spine. And I have this source connected here. This is my source. And this is my receivers which are connected. Now, by looking at the color itself, you can figure out that the source is in one subnet, receivers are in another subnet. That's why it says routed. It's layer 3 multicast that we are talking. EVPN mainly simulate this layer 2. But if I want to talk from subnet 1 to subnet 2, what is the basic answer? I need a layer 3 device. So in worst case, what you have, you send this traffic out somewhere to a L3 device, and then that L3 device does the routing and send it back to you. But as you can see, this is inefficient. Why? In the first place, I need to send the traffic out, get it routed, and come back in. Can't I route it within this fabric itself? Within this DC fabric? And the answer to that is yes. And how you basically do that is your tenant routed multicast. At a high level, what basically happens? And this concept you can also relate with symmetrical versus asymmetrical routing in EVPN, where symmetrical routing, I use something called as L3 VNI. Asymmetrical routing basically says that you need to have these subnets. Let's say here I have green, here I have blue. But if I am using asymmetrical routing, I need to have blue here also. And green on these two nodes. Even though I don't have any host, but that was kind of inefficiency. Of course, asymmetrical routing have certain gains. Let's not go there. If I want to route my multicast traffic, if I want to send layer 3 multicast traffic, TRM is the answer to that. And what basically it does, let's say your customer multicast, the MCast, this traffic will get encapsulated with this L3 VNI, and then it will get encapsulated in this provider multicast. Just quickly, one more difference I wanted to tell you guys, will not hold you up. Let's say, whether you want to understand this profile 14 that I was talking, any other multicast profile that exists in service provider network, or this TRM, there is this fundamental fact. Just listen to me very carefully here. Some of you may know this already. Let's say this is R1. This is R2. Here I have, let's say, some CE connected, CE1. Here I have connected CE2. The multicast signaling that you have here is PIM. Here also you have PIM. But the multicast signaling that you have in between this, I have drawn R1 and R2. There can be 100 routers in between, but the signaling that you have, that PIM join that we were talking, right? PIM join travel hop by hop. That is your signaling. Signal. You send a signal. I want to receive the multicast. That signaling, you can either have PIM, your draft Rosen 0, or you can have BGP. These two are the options. And then basically, if you want to understand this, BGP is like that bullock cart where they said initially BGP take us this IPv4 with you. Soon they say you take up V6 also. Then they said take MVPN, take EVPN, take some security related stuff, and the list just goes on. These address families that you see in BGP, VPN v4, VPN v6. So BGP was like, it's the carrier that can take almost everything. So when it was taking everything, these industry people or these ITF people, they thought, why can't it take this multicast also? And why they have chosen BGP to take this? Nobody can question BGP scalability. It's the protocol which is running the entire internet. So they can have all those advantages of BGP by carrying this MVPN address family. So you don't need this PIM here. PIM is only here and here. If you understand this, you basically are one step above to understand all these 30 profiles that I was talking, this TRM in data center or this EVPN fabric basically.